Hello, my name is George Gatewood. Welcome to Longwood Antique Woods. This is the February edition of the BGT deTour. Are you down with BGT? You know me. We'd like to welcome the BGT Bluegrass Trust viewers to our showroom here at 1555 Delaware Avenue. Longwood Antique Woods is the name of our company. We've been reclaiming barns and repurposing wood for almost 30 years into different applications such as tables, wallboarding, flooring, from Laguna Beach, California to New York to Florida. A lot of the Kentucky woods we've recycled are being walked on all over the country. So it's been an exciting career, taking this wood, repurposing it, having another chance of life for something that's fallen down or being neglected or can't be preserved. So we like to re-preserve it when we have to and incorporate it into other interesting, fun projects. This is kind of exhibits and shows the different flooring applications, the different furniture, and part of my passion for the business is, knowing where the wood came from and knowing where it's ended up. For example, like this table that I'm sitting in front of right now, it was actually floor joist in the Oldham County Courthouse that they had to take the joist up because they picked the courthouse up and moved it back like 15 feet or something. And we were able to buy and repurpose these joists into beautiful wide tabletops from the Oldham County Courthouse. So as we go around the showroom and I'll show you different things, a lot of them we actually know where they came from, so it makes it a kind of a unique history and something that's proud to be a part of, proud to be able to offer it to our clients. Some of the stuff you see behind us is what we call our wall board. When we run our flooring orders, if it's got too many nail holes or checks or knot holes for actual flooring, we convert it into a product that we put on lots of different walls. It kind of gives a room some warmth and character. Something we have now that's kind of exciting to people is because everybody's doing an outdoor kitchen, an outdoor fireplace. We sell a lot of mantle beams. So we have hand-hewn 8x10s, 6x6s, rough sawn beams for shelves or mantle beams. We also do bar tops, countertops, custom tables, custom conference room tables. We once did a table, this is pretty interesting, when they, back years ago when they took down one of the barns, half of two of the barns at Churchill Downs, they put this big Jumbotron TV up on the corner. We were able to salvage the floor joist out of these barns that they took down and actually made a 6-foot wide by 20-foot long conference table for Fred Noe at Jim Beam. Now the hard part was it was going in the second story of this historic house, and you can't get a 20-foot table up the staircase, so they actually had to take a window out and use a big forklift to sneak it in the window. But so it's there to stay. But that's a really interesting piece of how something goes from being at Churchill Downs for years and years and years, and then having to get taken down. And we were fortunate enough to be able to purchase these materials and give them a second life. We're very dedicated to our community here in Lexington. So we used to do help with the Bluegrass Trust trade show, the Antique and Garden Show, donate a table or something, the Bluegrass Land Conservancy, Woodford Humane Society. We've always get involved in those. First of all, we love it and passionate about it, and it's a good cause, and it's a really good, lots of them are good causes for our community. So we have through those trade shows, we've developed a customer base. Through a bunch of different restaurants and projects we've done in town, we get different customers coming in, or an architect or a decorator or a homeowner is building a new house and they don't want basketball floors, they want something wide with rich character, and so they stroll into our showroom and we kind of show them around, whether they want rustic or modern or traditional, kind of get a feel for what their house is wanting them to put in it. So Longwood, the name Longwood comes from a family farm I grew up on in Mount Sterling, Kentucky, that ultimately got bulldozed down for an industrial park. Years before that happened, there was a fallen down barn on the back of the farm with this mean goose that lived by it. And I would sneak up in the barn. It was kind of leaning over and pull boards out of it, and actually with the hammer pulled the nails and took those boards and built the tree house in our front yard, unbeknownst to my parents. I think I was 8 or 10 years old. That's when I started my barnwood career. One of the things I'm having fun with here at Longwood that we're doing for a client is restoring a 1790s log cabin, which means taking the logs, numbering them, re-notching them, and getting the notches to fit like tight properly for a guest house for a client here out on Bryan Station Road. I've had a blast with this. I haven't had a chainsaw in my hand. I haven't had a splinter in a while. I got several now. I don't have calluses yet again, but we've really, really enjoyed, me personally, being able to start this little cabin and start out with the first 2 logs and go, this cabin's going, one day I'm gonna grow up and be a big cabin. But it's been about a month and a half and notching every log and trying to keep them on the bubble when they're crooked logs, twisted and cracked and 220 or 30 years old, some of them. I'm like, this is an antique house. And it's really got my juices flowing again about doing some more cabins. So I'd love to take you back in the yard and show you some more about this interesting project that I'm having a lot of fun with here lately. So here's the cabin we've reassembled here at Longwood on the yard. It started out being a very traditional Kentucky cabin, about 28 by 18. So 28 wide, 18 deep, with the fireplace on each edge of it. I had a client that came up and said, hey, we're building a house out on Bryan Station. We'd like a really cool cabin for a guest house. Would you be interested in providing that? So I looked around and finally found one. And with these old cabins, if they're old and in the field, they're falling down. So it takes 3 or 4 to really make one. So we started out with basically a 28 by 18, 2-story ash log cabin with a very traditional joint on it, which is originally, this is called a cathedral notch or a V-notch, which means it's anywhere from 1770 to up to 1820. And it locks in kind of like so on this next piece. Unfortunately, being I had to use 3 cabins to make this, I had to shrink the cabin down a foot on each side and put what we call a half dovetail. It's easier to craft than the cathedral notch, and there's so many bad logs that I couldn't use the existing notches. So we actually hand cut every one of these notches. I think there's like 170 of them on both cabins to recreate it. We lost 2 feet, but we were able to substitute other logs. So the original cabin started out in Robertson County, then we got one from Bourbon County, and then we got one from Bath County. And actually, the floor joist came from Fleming County. So there's like 3 or 4 different spots of all dilapidated, fallen down buildings that we were able to salvage some parts and pieces and make one, actually 2 pens. So the early Kentucky cabins here in central Kentucky and surrounding areas, a lot of times were constructed of ash, which was a premium building material back in the day. A lot of your old historic federal homes that are early, 1790 to 1830 have blue ash floors. My old Kentucky home, a lot of these grand houses around here, if you notice, they wanted ash back in the day, and that was a premium building material. So most of these are ash logs. Some of the replacement logs were oak, but for instance, this is Robertson County, Blue Bath County, and the big long oak ones, Bourbon County. So, and in a cabin, most of your logs are short because you'll see they have doors and windows. So the really only long log that we have is a joist log. This log has pockets that hold these joists. The log above that, and then the top plate. It takes a lot of engineering and shuffling. Like we had these logs spread over this yard. You talk about a game of chess. I was like, and pickup sticks all in the same time. shuffling this, will this go here, will this go there? Needless to say, we did cut a few too short and not too long, but we managed to make it work. But it was a big, I don't know, chess game, checkers, pickup sticks, all in the same thing, and then a little bit of lumberjacking. So we've done these jams out of walk boards from the barrel ages of Maker's Mark. So these were actually those romantic pictures you see of the whiskey houses with, you know, the barrels all on the stacked up and the beautiful window down the aisleway, and those boards that they rolled the barrels on to rick them up in the ricks, or some of these. So it's actually got a little bit of Maker's Mark history in it for now. So as we walk in, the client is actually going to do a really nice fireplace on this side of it with a keystone arch. I think they may even put a crane in there for cooking. These are some of my favorite pieces of salvage of all time. And this was from an 1802 house in Fleming County that was okay, but the church, you know, I think a church had bought the house for a parking lot. Unfortunately, a lot of these old houses end up coming down because of parking lots. Imagine that. Churches and schools and stuff. But we were able to work with the demo contractor, salvage all the doors and windows, and these beautiful hand-hewn floor joists that I think are just going to be such a, when you have the fireplace going in there and the fire burning and the lighting right, it's just going to be, I can just imagine sitting here and enjoying that farm. And if my customers will let me come out and do that with them, which I'm going to write that in the contract, I get to come to the first fire in the fireplace. Windows are going to, you know, typical standard windows in these old cabins were like 6/6s or 4 panes. Obviously, they're going to put newer replica windows in here to kind of keep some heat in, and then everything will get chinked. Chinking in the early days was used. They would stack rocks on a 45-degree angle, and they would get sand, lime, a little bit of mud, some horsehair, and mix up a concoction, and they would smear it on top of the rocks, and that's what they called the chinking. In these early central Kentucky cabins, a lot of the chinking had a whiter tint to it, which was meant that the limestone and the sand were more in this region, versus if you get in eastern Kentucky, Tennessee, places like that, it's more of a brown because there's more sandstone, so it's more of a brown chink than the nice lime, bright chink here in central Kentucky. And then we're going to go over here. There's going to be a small staircase shooting up right here. Traditionally, there were little bitty staircases. I don't even know how they got a mattress up there. Maybe they built it up there, but that's going to go in this corner. There's going to be a sliding door, which is non-traditional, but it's going to go to a little breezeway and then the master bedroom. But we really didn't want to stuff the kitchen and or maybe the bathroom and the washroom and cover up these logs. So there'll be a double custom built sliding door here as of now. And this will be kind of like a little trot. We're calling this a trot between the 2-story and the single-story master into single-story bedroom. I think it's going to be like 9 feet this way, 16 this way, and it comes into another double door here for the main bedroom, which I think is like 16 by 18. These logs were from a log barn out of Robertson County. Big wide faces, hand hewn. All these, the logs in both of these structures date from circa, which gives you a few years, 1790 to about 1820, 1830. So and I haven't done this in a while, and I've really enjoyed it. I've gotten a few splinters and probably inhaled too much sawdust, but it's really been a fun project. And at the end of the day, you know, you start out with these 2 little bitty logs, and what I said when we started with the first 2 logs, I said, one of these days this thing's going to grow up and be a full-grown house. And to see it from day one to this grand presence is really, you know, I get goosebumps and get giddy every time I pull up because I know what it's going to look like as a finished product. And I actually can't wait to take it down, scrub the logs, pressure wash them off, treat them, tag and number them, and reassemble it on our customer's job site. And luckily it's right here in Fayette County, so it's going to be cool, and hopefully we can have a follow-up episode of the cabin actually going up, and then maybe one day burning that fire in it and enjoying a good Kentucky cocktail. So if you want to walk back here, you know, and in some of the pictures you'll see our chainsaw jig. But here's where we cut all the notches, and there's where we lost a foot or two on each log to incorporate new notches. The main logs in the cabin are ash, with the exception of a few longer white oaks. Some of them are 6 inches, some of them are 8 inches thick. And what we want to do when we do that is we want to cheat you want your face on the outside plane to be pretty consistent. And if you have like a 6-inch log, it's better for it to be in and out on the inside as far as water drainage than on the outside. So we've tried to keep the outside pretty plumb. And you know, with crooked 220-year-old logs, it's kind of a challenge, but fun in the same sense. And there will be I think there's going to be a back porch on the cabin. They're kind of still drawing it up, but we're ready to, as soon as they get the footers and foundation in, we're ready to tag it and disassemble it. And then we'll have tagging. There will be a schematic on each side. This is kind of the old one. This is a L5B question mark. So I tagged the one before we put it up, but that all changed since then. So now that we have it completely up, it'll have exact tags where everything goes, and it'll be just like Lincoln logs. I've had a couple people come down here and go, how are you gonna get it out there? Are you gonna jack it up and put it on a trailer? I'm like, I don't think so, but we will actually, just like Lincoln logs, take it down and stack it back up. When I look at properties and projects that I get leads on, you know, I'm all about preservation always first. All of the barns and cabins in this structure were too far gone or deemed for a landfill. So, you know, when we talk about preservation, sometimes it just doesn't necessarily mean saving a historic federal house. Sometimes it means repurposing some projects and products into a new old house. It's pretty interesting and exciting to take something that's past ripe and put it back on the tree, if you will. Now that you've seen the showroom, let's go back to the shops where the magic happens. Here we are in the furniture shop where we make custom bar tops and tabletops. This planer here has been with me for almost 25 years. It's a 1950s model piece of machinery that was the first piece I ever bought. And then we're going to go back to the mill house where we actually denail and kiln dry and mill up the old oak boards and poplar boards into tongue and groove flooring. And then we're going to run one of these boards through the planer and kind of show you how it's processed. It's one of those Oldham County Courthouse boards. This is a spot where we make the furniture. So we get custom orders for tabletops, bar tops, conference tables, and glue them up and mill them and plane them and actually fabricate it into a custom piece of furniture to your liking, your specifications. We have a great dedicated team of craftsmen like Jesse and all the other guys that pay attention to detail and really put out some nice furniture here. And sometimes it supports our floors or any other projects we've been doing. So if we do a floor, they might want a bar top or a tabletop. So that's where this happens, in the furniture shop by this old 1950s planer. This is one of those Oldham County floor joists I was telling you about earlier. They started out being 2 by 12. That's how many nails you got to dig out of it. We're going to send it through the planer and show you a little bit of the patina. Look at this color, this rich warmth. 1860 poplar. This is what it looks like when you put a little finish on it. The color and the warmth really comes out of it. Da-da-da, da-da-da. I'm bored now. Next, we'll talk about the mill house, or where we manufacture our hardwood flooring, which is some of the 15, 17 steps of holding the board, but I'm excited to show you kind of the trail of the board, how it starts from coming off the barn through the process of ending up this tongue and groove wide plank flooring. Here we are in the mill house where we process our reclaimed barnwood and whiskey wood and other fence planks. So our core business here at Longwood is we take old growth boards, recycle them, reclaim them from dilapidated or progress threatened buildings and remill it into wide plank flooring. Kind of how we got started out in the wide plank flooring was doing a log cabin, and the only option you really had back then, and this is almost 30 years ago, was like 2 1/4 basketball floors, really something narrow that didn't really go with the authentic architecture of an old log cabin or a federal style house that we needed to kind of be in period with the architectural elements of it. So we started taking old barn boards, wide plank boards, milling them down and tongue and grooving them and making flooring. Now, just like the logs, it's an old weathered, crooked board that's been on the barn for 70 years, but then the fun part is, how do you make it straight? So it's got a tongue and groove on it. This is not actually a wide plank, but then you look right down the board, it's got a little crown to it. That'll straighten out when it goes on the floor. Pretty cool. So the process is, as I was saying, touch each board 15 to 18 times. So take it off the barn, de-nail it, load it on the trailer, bring it in here. In the back shop, in the back there, we start by running a metal detector over it and digging any nails or anything that will hurt the planer blades out of the wood, out of the material. And then we plane it a couple times, straight line, to kind of get it to thickness and save some of the patina. Patina is the secret word. These guys do a great job of, they're always saying, their battle is always, if the board is cupped or warped, how do I take enough of that off to get it flat yet retain some of the patina? So every day, every decision, every time you handle a board, you're always thinking, how do I save enough patina yet make it suitable for someone's floor? So they'll plane it a couple times in the double-sided planer, then they'll straight line rip it. So a board might have a crown to it. You have to get it straight and parallel before you send it through the molder, which is where the magic happens. It puts the tongue and groove on it, and then it comes up here and we end trim it and package it. So pretty kind of entailed process. Huge warehouse full of different species of wood. I would almost dare to say how many different, I couldn't even guess at how many different fallen down barns are kind of stored in this warehouse and getting a new life. And that's really, really gratifying and fun to take something that's so beautiful yet falling down and gonna go to waste and recycle it and give it years and years of more natural beauty and warmth to people's projects. So it's a fun job. Huckleberry, Bimp America. Thanks for stopping by on the Bluegrass Trust deTour of Longwood Antique Woods. Really enjoyed having you here. Please feel free to come visit us at 1555 Delaware Avenue and get the tour. We have a website, longwoodantiquewoods.com. We got those social media things like Instagram and Facebooks at Longwood Antique Woods. Something you can just Google it and find it, but check it out. We've got lots of pictures, and hopefully we can have a follow-up deTour when this cabin is put back up out on Bryan Station Road. Until then, come on down, and the phone's ringing, maybe they got a barn.